All right, good evening. Hello, this is week 3 of the 13-week fiscal program for American Descendants of Slavery. My name is Chief Biko. Today we have Chief Alligator, Chief Quiet Water, and Chief Blackcoat. And here we focus more so on the first letter in the acronym ADOS, which is American. This week we'll be starting things off a little differently. I'll go ahead and jump into the Constitution. Then afterwards, we'll get into the treaty. So again, like every week, we definitely want to continue to emphasize that the United States has no money. And we do that when we go to section 10 of the Constitution. And can you all see it? I know last week it was a little slow when it pulled up. Are you all able to see the Constitution?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we see it.
Perfect. Section 10. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, remit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. So again, anything that is not gold and silver, according to the Constitution, is not a tender or anything that would pay off any debts. So this current fiat currency that we have, this dollar bill, this Federal Reserve banks, these are not actual constitutional money in regards to the Constitution. Again, things but gold and silver coin, a tender and payment of debts. And then we know from the Gold Standard Act in 1971, all of the gold was taken out of the system. So the dollar was never backed by gold. So again, what is it backed by? It has to be backed on the trust of the people or its citizens. I'll scroll down here to Article 6. All right, and here, this Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land, and judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. So again, treaties are the supreme law of the land. In this current treaty with the Seminoles, the treaty at Fort Gibson, we finally see, because it's something that we were focusing on last week, that there is a person from we the people within the Constitution that actually signed this treaty. So this would be considered a valid treaty under the Constitution. So again, this Constitution and the laws of the United States shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land. Right. Should be jump over here. Okay. And is it still sharing my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. So I know last week we left off at this section. Let's see. See where we can start. I'll just start here at this end. And further that nothing in the said convention shall be construed to cede or assign to the Cherokees any lands theretofore ceded or assigned to any tribe of Indians or Americans by any treaty now existing and in force with any such tribe or tribes. So just to kind of reiterate here, what we were talking about last week is that they were trying to basically bring the Creek and the Cherokee into under pretty much one umbrella. They were pretty much making business with both nations, the Creek as well as the Cherokee, in regards to land that had been promised to both of them. And they ended up settling with the Creeks in regards to the land that they were supposed to be getting once they moved west of the Mississippi.
I want Chief Alligator to speak on that.
Okay.
That was
Okay, in reference to this sentence that he just, this area that he just read,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
and provided further that nothing,
My bad.
No,
Trying
no
to
problem.
get this thing highlighted. No, I didn't let me. Okay. No, I didn't let me.
it's not gonna let you.
Nah.
All right, and provided further that nothing in the said convention shall be construed to cede or assign to the Cherokees any lands heretofore ceded or assigned to any tribe or tribe of Americans by any treaty now existing and in force with any such tribe or tribes. So they're basically saying that where they're gonna, the way I read this is wherever they're gonna allocate the Cherokees,
Mhm.
they're basically saying it's not going to cede, it's not going to conflict with any other Americans that are in that area. But as Chief Biko has said when he read treaties being the supreme law of the land, this is the first treaty that the United States government is actually doing with the Seminole Nation.
Mm.
So
Okay.
the first two treaties were done by a rogue military. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So we can see how that's going to clash heads because, again, I'm just worried. There is no law because they've already started to move Americans west. The way that I'm looking at this is they've already started moving Americans west of the Mississippi River, and the military was contracting separate and apart from the United States government. So really, that voids all of it. Because they never went in contract with the United States government. They were going in contract with the colonel of the military.
Right.
What's y'all thoughts on that?
Right. I wanted you to speak further on that one because I knew that sentence was complex. Because to me, it sounded like exactly what you pretty much said. Our treaty won't conflict with any other treaties. So I'm looking at it, where are we? And provided further that nothing in the said convention shall be construed to cede or assign to the Cherokees any lands heretofore cede or assigned to any tribes or tribes of Americans. Pretty much locking them in, saying like, it sounds like hypocrisy here, but look, like you said, there is no law. You know, the first two treaties being, not rolled off on, by the government.
It sounds like they may have known that they agreed with the military rather than the actual government. So that's why they put that verbiage in there so that it will be clear. Like, don't get it twisted, basically.
That's a great point. That's a great point when you put it like that too. Like, this is the treaty that would supersede those because it was with the actual U.S. government. And as Chief Alligator said, it wasn't with a rogue military acting on itself. So it kind of, I guess it's
now I'm seeing it.
like, it's kind of putting it or reading to me as though like, yeah, those treaties that were prior with, our military, our colonels, our lieutenants, those weren't with us.
Right.
So whatever land they said that they were going to delegate, nah, this is what is going to be happening.
There it is.
This is with the U.S. government.
Now I'm catching up.
Yeah.
If I could add one more thing in there,
Okay.
Congress never declared war. According to the Europeans' government, Congress has to declare war. Congress never declared any of these wars,
Right.
criminal war. So again, that null and voids any treaties because
Gotcha.
Right. Treaties are for
Yeah.
time and
That
war,
makes sense.
truce. So
Yeah.
you're just writing these
Yeah.
treaties up and there's no war going on, but you're just, putting things in paper, putting things in ink right now, creating treaties when the Congress never, so everything is pretty much from the start to the beginning or from the beginning to the end invalid, how this whole thing was going.
right. And I just want to add one point on that they never talk about with our history. They did not want to scare the peasants that they were sending from Europe.
Mhm.
So that's one of the reasons why their Congress never declared war against.
Makes sense.
So
You know what I'm saying? So they act like it wasn't even going on. It's like if you didn't live in that area, you didn't
You
even
wouldn't know.
you wouldn't know
they were benign and neglecting the whole situation.
the whole thing.
That's what I was going to put. That's what I was
Okay.
going to say. Because it's kind of seeming like
That's a bomb.
it was a war going on, but they didn't officially declare it a war. That's to
Right.
not, like you said, that's
So
to
you didn't have the whole act of the draft and everything that goes into prepping for war. Everybody just thought it was lottie dottie. Everybody.
Yeah.
Well, the people in the North,
Mhm.
right now, okay, the people in the Iroquois Confederacy, everybody Virginia up,
Mhm.
they didn't know that it was war going on in the Creek Confederacy.
Right.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? But
Right.
the masses that they were sending into that military buffer state known as Georgia, they were getting thrust into, okay, you know, basically from their standpoint, they were like, okay, you setting us up to die,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Pretty much.
You're sending us into it.
Blind.
The Lions, then, yeah. And now you can kind of see why there's so much animosity between the quote unquote Southerners or of the Dixie Belt, because they were always fighting with us and us fighting with them. You
It's
kind of
always been
see
two
that.
different.
You see,
Right. And how they lied, that's part of Reconstruction. What you just said, Chief Biko, the Bible Belt or the Dixie, or what's the term you just used?
I think it's the Dixie line or
Dixie
something like
line.
that. Mhm.
That's the Creek Confederacy.
Mhm.
So to replace your memory, to wipe out your memory, they replaced it with religion, right? So they call it the Bible Belt, but it's really the Creek Confederacy.
Makes sense. Great point.
You see what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
they started promoting these preachers and making it seem like we're prayerful people, but you overskip the fact that no, these were wars going on. The way I look at it right now in my life, if we invented all these industries, why can't we understand that we had it popping in the Creek Confederacy? Why can't we look at an Atlanta or a Charleston, South Carolina, or a Miami, Florida? Why can't we wrap in our minds that we were actually running those areas? Why can't we, like, we have to understand that they wanted what we had. We already had shops set up over here.
Because throughout the years, it's just been so far removed from the real reality of, I mean, their job has been completed. They have totally just redirected, reclassified, and just totally removed us from the reality of what they reversed the roles basically of what really was taking place back then. And we know that it was taking place because we're reading it, it's in black and white. It's not hidden from us. It's just the miseducation of forward people, people now and generations back that just don't know this particular information.
The schools, the churches. I had something click today as I was just driving back and forth, from Atlanta to Savannah. One thing you will see nonstop are churches and universities. I'm like, wow, it's a lot of schools out here. Wow, it's a lot of, so it's just like, yeah, like you said, Chiefs Choir, where their job has been completed.
Right.
We are like reading things on high frequencies right now. So it's like,
right.
What are these young men talking about? And the young lady.
So it's like this needs to be taught. I mean, that's the only way, just like, they start off in kindergarten with the Black History Month and all of that watered down history. This is the real history that needs to be taught.
This is history.
People will know
American history.
A real American history. So people will know, and then more of a sense of pride will be instilled in the younger generation when they first hit the ground in schools or whatever.
That's a key, that sense of pride too, like you stated. And just going back on the previous treaties we read in the previous the wars, they were all over the land in which is the Creek Confederacy. So it goes to think like, damn, what did they have on this land?
Right.
Like not only the actual natural resources, but the things that Chief Alligator said that were already invented. Like, damn, that's why they was like, we'll appraise what we think the value was of it is, but their appraisal could never be the actual, they can never actually pay for that because
Exactly.
they knew how valuable these things were, but to us is, everyday thing. We're used to making these type of things. So it just goes back like, damn, it was a lot of shit that they took from us.
It was more valuable to them than it was to us. It was our
Yes.
everyday life.
Correct.
So
we can always
they
invent.
they put the value on it because they didn't know how to do anything.
Correct. Let's see here. And whereas the said proviso and ratification of the Cherokee Treaty was accepted by the delegates of the nation, then at the city of Washington as satisfactory to them, as is shown in and by their certain instrument in writing bearing the date 31st day, May 1828, appended to and published with their treaty aforesaid. So it seems like here they actually ratified that treaty that they made with the Cherokee. So I might have misspoken in saying that they actually agreed with the Creek, but instead it seems like they actually agreed with the Cherokee in regards to that land that they were pretty much promising both nations.
Right. You can you can see that we got three different nations in contract with the United States government. We got the Creek merging with the Seminole and also the Cherokee. So what you just read is showing that the Cherokee also went and contracted directly with the United States government, but this is after the American Removal Act, or this is still during the American Removal Act. So you're still being so basically what's happening is I'm just going on their side of the ledger real quick. So if I'm European, we didn't officially declare war, but it's on and popping in that Creek Confederacy in the South. So we got our military burning down towns, burning down cities, kidnapping people, putting them on military occupation camps, which we call plantations, shipping a lot of them that were tired of fighting west of the Mississippi River, right? All of this has been going on for decades. And now you're finally getting a couple of those nations to send representatives to the United States government in order to come to deals with them. But the killing and the warring has been going on. It reminds me a lot of Donald Trump last year. And I'm just going to throw this in because this is why history is so important. Donald Trump's favorite president was Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson was president during all of this going on. So, why am I saying that? Because we're in a war right now, right? This war is an invisible war that Donald Trump declared last year. Okay. Congress has not openly said, oh, the war is against this group of people, but I challenge anybody who listens to these videos. If we're not prisoners of war, somebody put in the comment section on this video something specific that we have gotten since we became citizens in 1965, 1964. Somebody, anybody, I don't care what your education or what your schooling level, somebody put anything specific that we have gotten in the last 50 years. I can't find it. I can't
specifically.
find it. We have not got anything specific. We're always lumped in this minority bowl.
Everybody else gets specifically tangible.
Right. So
specific tangible, yeah.
So the language of business is accounting. We're never accounted for. We're never itemized. It's kind of like how you pay your light bill. You know, I'm gonna write this check and I'm gonna pay this amount to the light bill company. Right? This government never says, here's what's going specifically to this group. We never get that. The gays get it. They're the most recently fabricated group of people. It's a fabricated class because you're European first. But if your sexual orientation is gay, now you have an extra layer of protection. You follow me? So in this bowl called minority, you got illegal immigrants, handicapped, gays, European women, and us. That's six categories from an accounting standpoint. 5 of them get specific resources. The one group that never gets anything itemized is us.
Correct.
We never get any. The only time we get something is when everybody gets something. So like these stimulus checks, if everybody gets it, we'll get it. But we'll never get anything specific.
And it's like, how have we been surviving this long without any tangibles? Like, because every other group gets propped up when everything's about to fall apart. Or when they're, DACA or whatever these little groups are called, the government affront them, How have we been going about things so long?
Great question.
That just tells us we're getting the money. However the game is played, we got it. But we got to put it down and stop playing the games.
Right.
Hoard it.
Spend it with each other. Spend it amongst ourselves.
100%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody gonna have to hit the farm and start selling the strawberries out of grandma's backyard or something. I don't know. But yeah, no tangibles ever after becoming citizens.
That's crazy.
That's impressive on our part.
If I'm wrong, I challenge somebody to, feel free if like I said, challenge somebody, put something in the comments that we have specifically gotten since our group of people became citizens of this government. You didn't become citizens until 1964, 1965. And it's a harsh reality for that older generation to deal with, because if you're not prisoners of war,
What are you?
why didn't they recognize you as a citizen until 1960, 1965? Why were you segregated? Why did they have sundown towns where they could kill you when the sun went down? Why could they come in your house and murder your wife and kill your kids and blow up your church and nobody get charged with murder? How can all these things happen? How could the police sick dogs on you? How could the fire department hit you with water hoses? If you're not a prisoner of war, what are you? I'm asking y'all those questions as well. If we're not prisoners of war, why does this group get treated like that?
That's the only answer. And that's the most important piece to this puzzle for our group. And that's why I just had a conversation not too long ago with my brother, but I said the only way we're going to actually, recovery starts with however, you find your information. But once we get into the mindset of that we are the Americans, you are the American, you can start to look around like, okay, something's not right here, because everybody else is enjoying things while my group don't have too many things to enjoy. So first, you're the American, bro. Stop believing all of this extra Africa, Caribbean, cool. Do a little bit of research. I mean, everybody on this, it's crazy. I just look at us now. It's crazy. But yeah, you're the American. And that part right there should tell you everything else. Yeah, you're the prisoner of war because you're still here.
Right.
And you're reading these treaties. What are we reading? But our people gotta, but
Wake up.
the government is now doing too many things. So now people got too much time on the internet. So it's like a matter of time.
What y'all think, Chief Biko, Chief Quietwater? If we're not prisoners of war with all that, what else could we be? If we've been segregated and all those things.
Legal citizens.
I mean, I agree. Yeah, prisoners of war. I mean, it's no other way around it.
Can't call us a legal citizen because I was born here and my whole family. So it's like, and then poof here.
What about you, Chief Biko? What else would you?
No, that's it. Prisoners of war. Prisoners of war. And like you said, we're reading treaties, we're seeing the same elements over time that we're still dealing with today, as far as the roping off, segregation, being confined in these little areas or these big areas, still having these policy enforcers around our supposed to be areas of population, nothing has changed, just a little bit of legislation to continue the current government system. But yeah, definitely prisoners of war. The only reason we became citizens, I would say, is so they can reap more benefits off of our labor through taxes and different things of that nature. So yeah, that's what I would say.
You got a whole era called Jim Crow, just ridiculous type or ordinance or law, whatever you wanted to call them, rules, pretty much town rules. Jim Crow is what was the name for Black people. That wasn't a real person. It was like some, oh, that's Jim Crow nigga or whatever they would say. I don't know. But yes, I mean, you're a prisoner of war. How can they put these type of, restraints on you in your own town? You can't be outside past 7, whatever. Walking on the sidewalk, you get off the sidewalk, like just crazy things.
And look at where it was the most influential, where these Jim Crow laws were at, in the Creek Confederacy.
Southeast. Yeah, South.
They weren't dealing with it.
They weren't dealing with
Mississippi like that, north,
Exactly.
out on the West Coast. It was in the strict area. And why is that? We're showing you through these documents, through these treaties. Just reiterating and re-emphasizing that we are prisoners of war under the current government. Let's see. Did anybody want to pick up here where it says but? Let me highlight a little bit.
Yeah, I'll help you out.
Okay.
But afterwards, the Cherokees of Arkansas and many of those residing east of the Mississippi at the time that treaty was concluded, removed to the country described in the second article of their treaty and settled upon a certain portion of land claimed by the Creek Americans under their treaty provisions and stipulations. So everything we just built upon, we can see is coming to fruition in this treaty. The military was going into treaty independent of the United States government. It was already Cherokees out, where the United States government is now trying to send this group of Cherokees that they're contracting with, right? So the Cherokees of Arkansas and many of those residing east of the Mississippi at the time that treaty was concluded, removed to the country described in the second article of their treaty and settled upon a certain portion of land claimed by the Creek. So now you got infighting. You got infighting amongst the American nations because you had the military forcing people into a certain area. And now you got the United States government putting them in that same area. And so now it's infighting going on, which takes the focus off of who the real enemy was. That's what I put on that.
And it seems like they've in different, just as we've been reading the treaties, that's what their tactic has been, is to combine different bands of the Americans, and it just brews infighting. And so it causes a lot of confusion. It seems like that's what they're doing right here too, in this treaty as well.
Sure, for sure. Definitely is pretty much the puppet master. That's what the government is acting as at this point.
Right.
Puppet master. We're going to treaty with them. Yeah, we know our military is acting crazy, acting on their own fruition, but shit, we're going to still make them battle each other. It's like, even though what you did as far as the other Europeans, as far as our military, that was fucked up, but we know the common goal and we know what we're here for, to move these Americans, regardless of how it's done. So even though we wasn't on board with how, you did it, we didn't sign off on it, you got the assignment, you knew the assignment, you got it done. Right. It seems like here, the actual Americans are acting as minorities, because in the next sentence, you're going to see they're asking for the president to step in as the parent, as the daddy. Hey, you took my toy. You gonna do something? This your land. You took all of your shit.
Right.
I don't give a fuck what you do at this point. Y'all can fight over this piece of land, but I appreciate y'all acknowledging me as the authority, because that's what they're pretty much doing. Is our ancestors, they was acknowledging the government as their authority at this point.
Right. Wow.
I mean, at this point, I think, the number one rule of nature is, self-preservation. So you're going through all of these wars, you're going what all of this blood is being shed. So at this point, you're reaching out for help. Now you're like, okay, you guys are gonna really wipe us the fuck out if we continue going down this route. So now I have to start thinking, forward. You're pushing all these. Now they're seeing, damn, this ain't gonna never stop.
Right.
So now then this is when the ancestors, take that wrong turn or go down that wrong road.
So I'll start building on that next sentence. And whereas difficulties and dissensions thus arose between the Cherokees and Creek tribes about their boundary lines, which occasioned an appeal to the President of the United States for his interposition and final settlement of the question, which they were unable to settle between themselves. So that goes right into what Chief Biko and what Chief Quietwater was saying. Now they're on top of each other west of the Mississippi.
Mm.
Instead of them working it out together, they go to a third party, a non-American nation, to resolve the matter. So basically your spirit is broken at this point. What I see is a lack of independence from these nations, because now you're not willing to go chief to chief or council to council. The council from the Cherokee should have been meeting with the council of the Creek and the Seminole. They should have been working together, but you already tapped out when you let the military contract with you and send you west of the Mississippi in the first place.
Yeah.
So
The nation is dissolving, it looked like.
This last thing I'll share on this, I can also see this is the ground floor of what we know now as the left wing and the right wing. The left wing would have been the We the People, or pick a way, don't matter. But one wing of the bird is the We the People.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The other wing of the bird is the military.
Correct. That makes sense.
So we can kind of see how this thing is going to start. And so here we are in 2021. Anytime somebody says I'm Democrat or I'm Republican, that says a lot about that person, because you're sold on this government, especially if you have our lineage. You're sold on a government that has historically oppressed your people.
Period.
Great point. Great point. It also made me realize, just as far as something we've been reading in the Straw Man book, is that they went to this third party to settle a civil dispute, you could say. So when you enter into a civil court, the court itself doesn't care who the winner is. They just want to see who's going to pay them.
Right.
And if we take it to this, in this aspect, this corporation is the United States, they don't care who gets the land, just who's willing to pay them more for it, basically. So who's going to break me off more for me to decide in their favor, basically. It's kind of like putting into perspective on just that terms. And then now you can see how it kind of builds on from the local level to the state, to the federal, and even to, like you just stated, the right wing, left wing thing. They all are pretty much a part of this. They are a part of the same organization, same group, same bird, and they are part of the same assignment, which is to conceal dissension between the actual American people.
I'll finish up. And what you just said, Chief Biko, real quick, that's why January 6th, there is no law, because what you have is you saw the arm or the military arm of that bird step up. So now the We the People, or the people in government, they can't enforce any penalty on that other wing of the bird. Why? Because then the bird dies, it falls out the sky. And so now what we're seeing, and be careful, and I'm just saying this, always look at your Negro politicians that are now talking about, oh, they finna start cracking down on this, or cracking down on crime, cracking down on loan fraud. What they're trying to get Negroes to realize is, okay, you didn't get anything from the federal government, you don't have any protections. Now we're going to start promoting the business as usual, meaning locking y'all up. We don't want you to focus on when the highest law of the land. we don't want you to focus on the highest laws of the land being violated on video for the world to see on January.
Exactly.
Because it's the government's not going to eat itself. That bird isn't going to eat off its own wing.
Right.
Gonna find some scraps.
We'll just play debate, theater.
Mhm.
We don't, yeah.
But we're going to get back to the business as usual. The business as usual is what group of people never get anything specific.
Our people.
So now you look at
Americans.
Right. So now
You're African Americans.
we want to start relocking those people up. That's the real problem. And so ignorance of the law is no excuse right now. This is a very critical time for us to understand what's going on.
It really is.
We're being targeted.
It really is.
You said that too, because I heard on the news, they said with all this crime in Atlanta, I wonder if the new mayor-elect is going to start cracking down. So like you said, they're already putting that narrative out there.
Cracking down is coming.
For all the crime that's been committed in Atlanta, one of our new crackdown. So I'm like, okay. And then when you said that,
this is crazy.
And the scary part of that is Negroes just voted for Biden and Harris and got nothing specific from this government. Right? You in the middle of a world pandemic and a worldwide economic reset. You got nothing specific, but you're going to turn right back around and say, yeah, we need to enforce the law, which basically just gives them the right to say, oh, okay, so y'all are okay with us relocking up your kids again. That's really all they're saying.
The authority of the United States at that point. They just reiterate, as you could say, when we used to do in grade school, they just pledge an allegiance to the flag at this point.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're just making sure, y'all, we're changing the policy.
Right.
Here's the agreement. Check that box if you read it. I'm gonna just check it. Okay, you're standing under our authority again for this new cycle.
Yep.
So it's like, damn.
The Chief Alligator said something important. Ignorance of the law right now is, no excuse. Given the Afghans or a group of people that we used to consider terrorists, pretty much 6 billion, and still understanding your part in this puzzle, being a prisoner of war, we have to understand this during this time, because now another group is going to be piled on top of us.
Exactly. Yeah.
We have to stop playing oblivious to all of these facts. Like it's right there, and
it's in your face. It's
scary.
The boggling thing to me is that it's not hidden information. This is stuff that is plastered on the news. It's plastered everywhere. So, going back to the term, ignorance of the law is no excuse at all.
It's really scary because it's like so many things are going on. We're doing our homework. So we sit down 1 hour a day just to do some homework so we can understand what's going on. You would think, the prisoners of war will be taking this time right now to sit down. So it's like, what's going on with the programming of the TV? I'm not sure, but it's critical times right now. Very critical from top to bottom.
All right, I'm gonna see if I can finish this off tonight. And whereas the commissioners of the United States, whose names are signed here too, in pursuance of the power and authority vested in them by the President of the United States, met the chiefs and headmen of the Cherokee and Creek nations of Americans in council on the 29th ultimo. So we can already see, based on this little couple of sentences that I just read, this language is completely different than the last two treaties.
100%.
We can see exactly who they're contracting with.
Right.
Y'all want to build on that, or y'all want me to keep going?
I think he said it. That's the whole time we've been reading. I'm like, this is total different language.
This is what I would call a legit treaty.
Right.
Underneath their constitution.
No one's talking at them.
Right.
But confining them to parts and where, business is being handled right now.
And even a key distinction too, it's like they're meeting with I think it said the chiefs and head men. I don't even think that's what they were doing. They were just meeting with any other person they picked up in other treaties.
Chief Akibalon said that. Chief Akibalon said one of those treaties we were reading that they were probably just grabbing people that were not even
Mhm.
and assigning them sections of land, right?
Mhm.
Okay, and after a full and patient hearing and careful examination of all the claims set up and brought forward by both the contending parties, they have this day effected an adjustment of all their difficulties and have succeeded in defining and establishing boundary lines to their country west of the Mississippi, which have been acknowledged in open council this day to be mutually satisfactory to both nations. This is completely different language.
You know what I'm saying?
There was
It's
no
crazy.
hearing when they were
Right.
with the military.
No, it's crazy. The damn militaries and they get writing their articles. Look, y'all gonna stay here. Y'all gonna give us all of this. We want to make sure we get everything done. This is like, completely different.
And it puts you in the mindset of the European you're dealing with. We're just reading this treaty alone, how the North was different from the South. Two different mentalities, how we're going about things right now, reading the rest of this treaty.
Not really. Don't give them credit. Because remember, they never declared war.
So they're just kind of playing them right now, like, oh, you do need us.
So for you to come to DC, so I always think chess. The pawns on the chessboard were the military. Okay. The back row, the king, the queen, the bishop, the knight, and the rook, that's the United States government. That's the 50 people.
That's the mons.
Once the chief on the other side of the chessboard got to their chief, which would be the United States government, they realized that, okay, it took them about 20 years to figure out that they were doing business with the wrong group. They were doing business with our pawns, which is the military. You see what I'm saying?
The little guys.
I wouldn't even matter. Credit that, but like, no, you're right. It took them a while, but it's like also back to the other treaties and what Chief Akibalan was saying, they're just grabbing random people in the military. So I'm pretty sure like the actual chiefs are these people that they're probably was also sending out their pawns to battle, but they didn't think that they would be signing off all this type of stuff, like if they was captured. So I think it's like also the mentality that we had as a people, like, I'm not gonna expect your pawn or even honor your pawn signing some shit, but
at all.
But the US government will, if it is beneficial to them. So I can also kind of see how our, I guess, people are playing it as well. As Chief Blackcoat stated, they just seen a lot of bloodshed at this point. So they're like, okay, where is their headquarters? Where is their head? Where is their chief? We're going to discuss some stuff with them.
Right.
And I'm glad we pointed out that pawn situation, because again, the United States government, these soldiers down here in Georgia are coming, getting orders from this government, but they're not you're contracting just strictly with this military versus, so again, I like how you pointed out the pawn. So yeah, they were just saying that we'll see what happens in Georgia. We'll see what happens in Florida. And then it cracked. Them chiefs started coming about them holes towards the north. Where they at? Where's the government? Where's this group?
I'll finish this last part off. One last thing on that section I just read. Notice you didn't see Seminole Nation. Even though this is the treaty, this is the last treaty for the Seminole Nation, but what you see is the United States government is recognizing in writing the Creek and the Cherokee. But this is the last Seminole treaty. So I'm gonna finish this last part right here. Now, therefore, for the purpose of securing the great objects contemplated by an amicable settlement of the difficulties heretofore existing between the Cherokee and Muskogee and Creek Americans. So now they've added Muskogee in this paragraph. Again, you don't see any Seminole. So injurious to both parties, and in order to establish boundary lines which will secure a country and permanent home to the whole Creek nation of Americans, including the Seminole Nation who are anxious to join them, the undersigned commissioners duly authorized to act on behalf of the United States and the chiefs and headmen of the said Muskogee and Creek Americans have full power and authority to act for their people west of the Mississippi, hereby agree to the following articles.
Wow.
So we can see right here that the European is saying this is business.
Mm-hmm.
So the European is saying, I want to do business with the Muskogee and the Creek.
For the Muskogee and the, oh yeah.
The Creek were the, I don't want to say head of the Confederacy, but this is the Creek Confederacy.
Right.
So out of all the nations, who are you going to have to do the majority of the business with? The Creek.
The Creek.
So the Creek have the full power and authority as far as the European is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
You fit? Y'all with me?
Mm-hmm.
Here's what the issue comes in. What if you got pawns on your chessboard that never make it to Washington to deal with the government, and you're only dealing with the rogue military?
Right.
You don't know that the Creek have ultimate authority coming from the United States government.
Yeah.
So y'all see the conflict that can come up?
Mhm.
Already infighting, more infighting.
Right, more.
Right. If I'm coming to you, Chief Biko, and I'm like, okay, y'all growing corn in my area of land. Me and you are talking about it, but we don't know that Chief Quietwater from the Creek Nation has the ultimate authority.
Yeah.
Correct.
Quietwater calls Chief Biko and says, you can grow your corn there, that's not a problem. So now I got issue with Chief Biko and Chief Quietwater right now, but Chief Quietwater already knows if you really got a problem with it, Chief Alligator, I got the European on my side.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Good analogy.
You see that?
It also it highlighted that they, like you say, that they only kind of respect, I wouldn't even say respect, but they only are dealing with the Cherokee and Creek Muskogee nations and this Seminole nation, because they recognize it as a nation. They're like, nah, yeah, we're not even gonna give y'all that respect. And I can kind of see, because it's like the Seminoles were the ones that was fucking them up through these years. So it's like, we gotta get rid of these folks.
Downplay them.
Downplay them as much as we can. And it's kind of like, damn. So I feel like our spirit, as far as our ancestry spirit, is more aligned with the Seminole, because
For sure.
Nah, we ain't going for none of this shit.
100%.
And it's like, it almost makes you think like, nah, the Seminoles were definitely us. We
Right.
were definitely the Seminoles, because we were the ones like, oh no, we're not going for that shit. We taking all our family here. We not.
It's rooted in our DNA.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they can't trick us. We.
So it's kind of wild to me.
We'll probably stop there because my alarm just went off. But look at that date on this treaty, y'all, 1833.
All right.
So this is the last treaty of the Seminole Wars.
So we get into another one.
So we can see this is it.
This is it.
1833 was the last time that they tried. Now, can you?
They tried to be civil.
Chief Biko, can you share that image that's on my background? You still have that image of the map? I think it was the last image.
Yeah, I think so.
I thought this was my laptop. I'm like, why I got the Lakers sitting this out? I'm like, I do not do that.
And the only reason I'm bringing that up is because, so from 1833 until 2021, you've been at war.
Yeah.
You've been at war.
Yeah.
This is the last treaty.
And how far we have gotten from this, because we see who was in charge during the last treaty and who we are today. You know, so it's very, very disconnected from our group of people.
Kind of hard to see. You can see it a little bit behind.
Okay, here we go.
There. Oh.
You can see the date. That's what I wanted Chief Biko to pull up. They're saying by their records, 1817 to 1858.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're looking at is 1833 was the last negotiation. So, so it never ended. But they're trying to say it ended right before the Civil War. No,
Look at this. Can y'all see it?
Yeah.
Third Seminole War. And with those dates, that's a whole 22 years after the
Right.
signing of that treaty. So again, we were still warring with their military after that treaty was signed by their
Right.
government.
The Seminole War, though. Man, that's what they're calling it, the Seminole.
Let's see if I can find another one. Let me see that
And
one.
so the question is, if there's no more treaties after this treaty that we're reading, then why are they putting the end date on it? That's to not remind us that you're still in war.
Yeah.
And then that goes back to what you said, Chief Blackcoat, about the Jim Crow era and segregate. All of that is war.
Yeah. 100%. Because now I'm just trying to be civil with you.
I would love to hear your opinion on that, being the feminine energy. When we know that we're reading the last treaty, and that was 1833.
Mhm.
There's no more treaties after this treaty we're reading.
Right.
On that map, if you can go to that image that has the whole image of the Creek Confederacy. If they're saying the Seminole Wars ended in 1858, based on what?
Right, which is clear to the reason why we're still prisoners of war. We're still at war.
It never stopped.
All types. You got your college graduates. I'm sure they study all this good stuff. They talk about, the Black women in hospitals, giving birth and losing children or losing just their lives due to inaccurate procedures. And so all of that ties into war. How are we delivering all these babies, but we have problems? All of these little things that it plays a part to what, again, the war never ended.
Right. So when we look at this date, we can see that they're lying because the treaty we're reading is 1833. So why are they saying that the war ended in 1851, but then the Civil War starts in 1861? And then guess what's interesting about the Civil War? There's no treaty for the Civil War.
Right.
You know why there's no treaty for the Civil War?
Because this is a continuous
We're still trying to be civil.
Right.
Which is why you get a civil rights movement. Yes. That's why the United States government in the 1960s had to come back into the Creek Confederacy and say, look, y'all need to start being civil with each other. But here's the downside. They took us off of our lineage platform. They gave the people at that time agreed that we were going to be minorities, not Choctaw, Cherokee, Seminole. You see what I'm saying? They took us off of that, which goes back to Judge Joe Brown just admitted this week as well that he's Choctaw.
All right.
Yeah.
So what you have is these people who look just like us. Here's what he's not saying. Him and Dr. Claude Anderson. They're not U.S. citizens.
Yeah.
All right.
And we have to understand that they're not U.S. citizens. They're citizens of Choctaw and Cherokee Nation. So yeah, they're not paying the taxes that you're paying. They're not looked at as a minority or Afro-American or person of color. No, they're Choctaw and they're Cherokee. And
they're getting reparations.
And exactly. But even if we take out the financial aspect, the wherewithal to know your identity as an American goes back to the whole point of them even having the civil rights movement. Because like you stated, y'all need to be civil with these Seminoles, these Choctaw, these Cherokee that are still remaining here.
Right.
But you know what? Let's find a better way. Let's do Brown versus Boyd. Let's make these motherfuckers think that they African. Now, once we got them thinking that, they don't care about being in this land. They're going to move regardless.
We from Africa, bro. That's crazy.
Let's say that we brought all these niggas over here on ships. Ain't nobody going to do the research. So now, when we make it hell, when y'all make it hell for them, come out here to West. Come to the north. where we don't beat you like that. We'll still fuck you over. We still take your money, but we ain't
Right.
gonna rough you up. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? And when you, like I said, when you put it in the mindset of,
Yeah.
oh no, this been our land. I'm gonna fuck y'all up for coming on my land. Oh,
Right.
this ain't our land, but you telling me I can go somewhere over here west and they'll treat us better? Okay, now let's all get the movement, the migration north, the migration west of the Mississippi, just California. You just saw it in, I don't know, you probably saw it, I think it's called them that supposed to be like
Oh, yeah.
scary.
Correct.
They moved from South Carolina, North Carolina, one of those Carolinas,
All
out
the
to California.
Yeah.
Why is that? Well, that's probably your ancestral home because
Right.
you were trying to escape
Mm-hmm.
the warring going on in your own place. But you saw that they still gonna treat you the same out there in Cali.
Yep.
So why
Same.
not identify yourself, fight for your own land, and then you can finally move them out. But see, that whole educational system got us so fucked up where we like,
We all
we
over
just
the
need to
place, bro.
move. Yeah, we all over the place. It's no safe place on this land
Right.
until we remove the parasite, the virus.
Yeah.
Then everything will be safe.
COVID-19.
Oh yeah, we got about 5 minutes.
This was a good bill.
Yeah.
And just watch your enemies, because we know now that we have enemies that look like us. So
Yeah.
I'm already paying it. I like to look at all three sides of the coin, heads, tails, and then you stand on the edge.
Mhm.
Standing on the edge, you get a chance to see what your enemies who look like you are saying. And guess what they're already saying? We need you to get out and vote again for the midterms.
A never-ending cycle.
But when you hear them say that,
Participate.
well, participate, because you got to have faith, because there is no money. So the only way this thing keep going is you got to have faith in it.
Mhm.
But here's the real catch. I'm gonna say this and leave it alone. Voting is a business transaction. The language of business is accounting.
Mhm.
The people who are put in front of us as leaders, they never have a goal on how to account for what we get.
For us.
So
Right.
what they do is they go off feelings.
Mm.
Can you go to your work? Okay. If I'm on somebody's team and I'm being evaluated, feelings are not going to come into how much resources I get. They're going to look at my performance, right? Why don't we do that with the people that they put in front of us as leaders? Okay, what's the return on investment for any bill that you specifically allocated for our group of people? What percentage of effectiveness, what percentage of efficiency have you been since you've been? We never grade them from business metrics. We always let them get off the hook with religious, spiritual talk. Your belief system ain't got nothing to do with a business thing. I don't care what your belief system is when we negotiate.
Wow. Yeah.
Your skin color don't got nothing to do.
They're not doing business.
Yeah, your skin color ain't got nothing to do. You saw Obama ain't do shit for us. So at this point, why not just get? Matter of fact, y'all niggas come up here with a green mask on, green jumpsuit, and y'all tell us exactly what you're
right. We don't care what you look like, what's your nationality.
The Converse on.
Yeah. If that turtle gonna get us some goddamn benefits, we gonna vote them.
So what Chief Alligator pretty much said, from what I heard, is we got to hold ourselves accountable as well, because they're not doing business on the big scale or on the big table, and we're not doing our side of business either,
right?
Holding them accountable.
That's where we're losing.
So this manager-employee relationship is all over the place.
Don't say manager employee. Look at it a little different. They're the public servant. So the triangle is flipped upside down.
They do,
right? If you want to use the word employee, the employee always dictates to management. What they've tried to do is make management dictate to the employee. No, when we start thumbing down their videos, when we start booing them in person, now it's like, and see, here's the real, I'm gonna say this, and here's the real deal. They don't know how to get business done.
No, clearly.
The people who are supposed to be our leaders, when we
it's a dirty game, but they don't get it.
Because right now they're like, damn, they want an agenda. We don't know how to do that. Watch this. We don't know how to set a goal for this group of people. We've never done that. You know what? Run something about the Haitians at the border. Now watch this.
Mm,
They run an ad about the Haitians on the border the same time they throwing out the George Floyd Act.
Mhm.
So you're more focused on Haitians and rednecks on horses with whips. And then you're even more concerned with Dave Chappelle and his gay jokes at the same time they're throwing out the George Floyd Act.
Mhm.
That's because the people who look like you, they're in cahoots with the European to say, how do we get them not to find out
that's their
that we're
job.
not going to
Mhm.
get this done for them? You know what?
Yeah.
Let's distract them. And that's what they did. They put some
Every
Haitians on the
time.
screen and threw out the George Floyd Act.
We have the wrong people in their positions. So we have a marketing director acting as the chief accountant.
Right.
So basically, because like you just stated, they're marketing towards, oh, let's put these feelings out here, but they ain't doing their job, which is supposed to be accounting for shit that we're not doing.
Right.
So let's get these business acumen people that, like you stated, okay, we have a goal. This is how we plan on meeting them each quarter. So we can
Mhm.
have this finance, so we can have, our goals met for this fiscal year.
Right.
We have the wrong people in these positions.
Right.
So like Chief Blacko said, we gotta hold them accountable because as you stated, we are employing them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We the
We
shareholders.
pay taxes.
You're supposed to be acting on our behalf,
Right.
but you're not doing your job, so you gotta go.
That tax game just looking a whole lot dirtier now.
Right. And so,
Forgiven.
but what Chief Biko said, what happens when you don't have fiscal quarter goals? What happened is you don't get nothing done the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter, or the fourth quarter. So now that's a whole nother year. You got
Gone.
nothing.
Mhm.
And then that year turns into 4 years, and then it's another voting cycle, and it's another president, and you never get nothing done. And we've
Right.
lived, myself and Chief Quietwater, we've lived long enough to watch first generation immigrants from the 80s. Now you turn around and they run all your corner stores and all your, it's like, damn, how this happen? Well, because they've been getting specific stuff through DACA while you've had a Black congressional caucus that never heard
Absolutely
of that
nothing.
in school.
Yeah, never heard of them.
Never
Damn.
heard of, what the hell is a
Another
Black
bomb.
caucus?
That's crazy. That's wild.
Y'all want to do
So
this?
let's do the reading. Who has the 12 steps?
I got it.
Okay.
Let me pull this up real quick. All right, 12 steps. Number 1, learn about the estate or estates your family originated from. Number 2, who established that estate. Number 3, what nation or confederacy had jurisdiction over that area prior to the European. Number 4, ask all nonprofit organizations you attend, what's your position on reparations? Number 5, they either support it or they don't. No support, no money. However, if they support it, then immediately children and adults need weekly classes free of charge about steps 1, 2, and 3, and field trips to ADOS landmarks in that city, county, and state. Number 6, don't support European holidays for the remainder of a 13-week time frame. Number 7, avoid spending money with any small business that doesn't hire your people, gas stations, nail salons, subways, etc. Number 8, all businesses need operating cash. Spend money with American Black businesses. Number 9, all other groups rely on your energy and operating cash to survive. Set the trends of making other groups follow our lead and support our clubs, services, products, and entertainment. Number 10, the US government is bankrupt. The Federal Reserve prints money, i.e. quantitative easing. It also burns money, i.e. quantitative teething. The US dollar hasn't been backed by gold since Richard Nixon in 1971, the Gold Standard Act. The government operates off full faith of its citizens to pay debts and taxes. American descendants of slavery no longer have faith in the US government. This is why financial support will be altered, stopped, and redirected. Number 11, teach your kids 1 hour a day about the history on this land. Have them learn about a Black inventor. Have them know about our heroes. They should know the European that conquered that estate you live in. They should know the nation of people prior to the European invasion and military culturally. Number 12, practicing these steps will educate us on the land we're claiming America and attaches us to the history and laws of the US government. Every estate American descendants of slavery live in should have steps 1, 2, and 3 advertised via social media, radio, and newspaper. This in 13 weeks, one physical quarter will bring us together for our common cause.
Thank you, Chief Blackcoat. Our inventor for this week will be Mary Kenner. That's Kenner. She was born May 17th, 1912 in Monroe, North Carolina. She invented many things, including the sanitary belt, which aimed to prevent menstrual blood leakage on clothing. So this is before like the tampon usage and before it became like within, I guess, the actual underwear, the undergarments of the female. They would be wearing these sanitary belts. That way it didn't leak onto the clothing. But the actual patent that I have, or the invention for this week, is the actual bathroom tissue holder. So she was the inventor, her along with her sister. They invented and patented the bathroom tissue holder. That patent number is US 4354643A. And that was granted October 19th. So this Tuesday, we should honor Mrs. Kenner, because that is the day this actual patent was granted. So October 19th, 1982. So this Tuesday will be, what is that? But almost 40 years, 39 years, almost 40 years since that grant was passed.
And what percentage of the income do we receive from that invention?
Zero.
And she invented the actual little plastic, piece within your toilet so it can just roll off. We got frustrated. How can I make this easier?
We got frustrated. Look,
Right.
she made a lot of stuff, a lot of things, but that was just one simple one that I thought like, wow.
Right.
Good
It's so much
information.
easier. It sits right there. I stand up.
Right.
I can just keep pulling as much as I need without having to really move too much.
The little things.
The little thing.
The little things. Let's see, Chief Alligator, did you have the quote for this week?
Yes. I'm unmuted. Okay. I will do the okay. I'll do quote number 9. Negroes must become like English gentlemen who study the law of the land, not because they intend to practice the profession, but because every gentleman should know the law. In the interpretation of the law by the courts too, all the rights of the Negroes in this country are involved, and a larger number of us must qualify for this important service. We may have too many lawyers of the wrong kind, but we have not our share of the right kind. And that is the Dr. Carter G. Woodson quote, who is the founder of what we know now as Black History Month.
Excellent tie-in for today's readings. And Chief Quietwater is going to cap us off with the legal definitions as well as the marine historical points.
All right, I'll start with the legal definitions. Number 1, American, a native of America. Number 2, descendants, one who follows in the bloodline of an ancestor, either lineally or collaterally. Number 3, slavery, a situation in which one person has absolute power over the life, fortune, and liberty of another. Number 4, prisoner of war, a person, usually a soldier, who is captured by or surrenders to the enemy in wartime. Number 5, school, any institution at which instruction is given in a particular discipline. Number 6, education, an enlightening experience. And then some legal definitions, and so the maroon historical points. Number 1, was a person escaping slavery, seeking freedom, or breaking the law? Number 2, providing unity and a strong defense came first. Number 3, maroon leaders were first and foremost military figures. Number 4, Maroons establish guerrilla warfare, planting sharp stick in thick grass. Number 5, Maroons knew the European enemy's language, defenses, and plans.
Thank you, thank you. And we switched it up this week to read off of those things, basically because I feel like it just drives the point home in regards to what we read within the treaties or whatever we're reading for that week. You kind of heard a lot of the same reoccurring themes that we brought up within the treaties, whether it was knowing who you were dealing with, knowing the law of the land, just in regards to the little things, even from the quote of knowing or speaking the language of your enemy, as far as legal terms, things of that nature. So I think it just reemphasizes the point home in that we need to follow those 12 steps in order to get out of the current predicament we're in. And we also need to educate ourselves on how this government is ran. That way we can not only survive within it, but also work our way up out of it. So that's just my 2 cents on that. Any other thoughts, closing thoughts?
That's
we
it.
good.
I think that we had a pretty good class this week.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask a question offline.
Yep, I'm good. Yeah, it is what it is. Ooh, it ain't gonna stop. Shit. You can't run from this. This shit is real. I love it. Love it.
Y'all have